Hi, I'm Anand Patel, and today I'm joined by Jonathan Aubrey-Smith and Paul Hyam from WTW's consulting practice. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to start by picking up on a thorny issue that we've noticed within the London market as opposed to the broader commercial market. Quite often we see underwriters within the London market tasked with writing both delegated authority and direct business, and the performance between those two parts of the business can often be quite different. We see that underwriters, when it comes to writing direct business, they have a great understanding of that particular risk. They understand the risk characteristics. They're able to understand the underlying exposures that are being presented to them and come to very good conclusions, which then leads to very good underwriting results. But when those same underwriters are tasked with writing a portfolio of business, so whether that's delegated authority business, they're not as good as choosing the cover holders or the MGAs which they should support and back. And my question here is, first of all, do you kind of agree with those conclusions? And secondly, if you do you think that insurers should be allowing underwriters to be able to write to do both parts, the delegated authority model and the direct model at the same time?
As you say, it is a thorny question because it comes into individual approaches. But I think for me, I agree with your conclusions. I think the fundamental point for me is I don't think open market underwriters should be writing delegated authorities as a general rule. And the reason behind that is around the focus and control. We all, as humans, will respond more to what's right in front of us. If somebody's sitting next to us asking a question, we tend to answer and respond to them as they're there. And we'll come back to the email that's come through, that'll come second. By the fact that you've delegated authority, what tends to happen is those underwriters then focus on their open market portfolios, making a great set of decisions around it, and they don't focus and spend the relative amount of time on the delegated authority portfolios, understanding what's happening, tracking them effectively, because it's two different skill sets. As you rightly say, one's about understanding individual risks, one's about understanding portfolios and understanding the performance. They are two different skill sets, and I think when they overlap, you tend to get the DAs get forgotten because they're not as close to it, because they've written it, they've got all the lines down. Yes, they'll monitor it at some point, but they don't give it the same level of interest and enthusiasm. And I think as such, we find ourselves in a situation where the performance is much more mediocre. But I also think this is one of the challenge opportunities coming forward for the market. We're expecting to see that split or an increasing split between portfolio underwriting and individual class underwriting. And I think making sure that you're set up to portfolio underwrite, having teams that are focused on that with the tools and the support and the technology to support that as well, and acknowledging that's a different way of underwriting and you need a different team to do it, and then making sure your class of business underwriters are focused on what they're brilliant at. They can provide support and thought into that portfolio team, but I think splitting them is the only way, I think is where we'll end up, and I think it's the right way to go.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. So, slightly different model, I suspect, in a commercial lines non-Lloyd's insurer than there is in a Lloyd's market, but the fundamentals are still very similar. So, successful insurers, when it comes to managing delegated authorities, treat them as portfolios. So general insurers have spent lots of time investing in their core portfolios in terms of pricing, portfolio management, and informing underwriters in terms of helping them make more informed decisions at the front end. Traditionally, and this is a generic comment, but delegated authorities tend to get put to one side when it comes to investment in technology or infrastructure, and problems only really surface when they are problems. So actually day-to-day running tends to be less intensive. Where we see insurers be successful in terms of managing delegated authorities is where they're investing time and effort in terms of accessing or improving the extent of the data they get and then doing something with it. So rather than receiving a monthly source of data and using it just for block debiting, they're actually using it to identify trends in exposure, in claims, in market, in trading trends, and incorporating visualization tools so that they can map together those different trends And what that tends to result in is a more balanced relationship with the distribution provider. So it's not just a distribution partner who's bringing all the insight to the relationship. There's two sets of eyes looking at it from two different backgrounds and two different perspectives. And in terms of, let's say the insurers that we see be successful, that type of relationship is tending to bring more confidence in the results, so the results become more known. And it's tending to drive a more long-term successful partnership with the distribution provider. So those insurers that are investing time and effort in terms of understanding trends are tending to rise to the surface in terms of how successful they are in managing delegated authorities.
Okay, so there you have it. Either you invest in the tools to support your underwriters or allow them to stick to what they're good at. Thank you very much for joining us, Paul and Jonathan.